The mortar round hit 30 meters from the aid station. Canvas walls rippled, and dust rained down in gray streams. Rhea did not flinch. Her hands remained steady, threading surgical needle through torn flesh with the methodical precision earned over 3 tours on the southern border. The soldier on her table was young, blood soaked through bandages faster than she could replace them. She could see life draining away, measured in the slowing pulse against her fingertips. Another explosion, closer. Oil lamps swung and shadows danced. Automatic weapons fire punctuated the night, a deadly percussion that had become as familiar as her own heartbeat. Concentrate. Focus on what you can control. She packed the wound with gauze, fingers working with muscle memory. The soldier's eyes found hers. He was trying to speak, but words came out as wet gasps. Rhea leaned closer. "Am I going to die?" he whispered. The question hung between them, honest and raw and terrible. Rhea had learned long ago that soldiers did not want lies. They wanted truth. "Not if I have anything to say about it," she replied. Her voice carried calm certainty, born from watching death try to claim hundreds and refusing to let it win. "But you need to stay with me. Keep breathing. Keep fighting. Can you do that?" The soldier nodded. His hand found hers and gripped with surprising strength. Rhea held on, anchoring him to the world while her other hand continued its work. The entrance burst open. 3 soldiers carried a 4th between them, Commander Bram. His left leg hung at an unnatural angle and his face had gone the pale gray of shock. "Get him on a table!" Rhea barked. Her voice cut through chaos with sharp command. She was an Omega. She was not supposed to give orders, but the soldiers obeyed instantly, too focused on survival to care about pack hierarchy. She finished the last suture and turned to Bram. One medic rushed to monitor her previous patient. Rhea moved to assess the commander's injuries. The leg was bad. Compound fracture, bone visible through torn muscle, bleeding from at least 3 other wounds. "Morphine," she said. An assistant slapped the syringe into her palm. Rhea administered it with practiced efficiency, then began cutting away the commander's uniform. Bram's eyes focused through the pain haze. "You are Rhea," he said. "Yes, sir. I have seen you work before, during the ambush at Clearwater Ridge." He watched her hands assess damage with clinical precision. "You think like a soldier. Why are you not on the front lines?" Rhea's hands paused for just a fraction of a second. "Because Omegas do not get to choose their wars, sir." Bram studied her face. Something passed through his expression. Recognition of talent wasted, potential deliberately constrained. "That is a damn shame." Another mortar round hit, closer than before. The entire structure shook. One support pole cracked with a sound like a gunshot. Rhea looked up and saw the situation with sudden clarity. The aid station was positioned wrong. They had set it up in low ground, probably thinking the depression would provide protection. But the enemy had the high ground, and they were walking their fire pattern straight toward this location. Basic tactical error. And it was going to get everyone killed. "We need to move," Rhea said. "Now. We need to move right now." Carson, an older beta medic, shook his head. "We cannot move these men. They are too unstable. They will be dead if we stay here." Rhea pointed to impact craters visible through the tent opening. "Look at the spacing. They are adjusting fire. The next volley will hit this position directly." Carson hesitated. He outranked her, but Rhea could see in his eyes that he knew she was right. Bram made the decision. "Do what she says. Move everyone to the northern bunkers, double time." Chaos followed. Organized chaos. They loaded wounded onto stretchers, those who could walk supporting those who could not. Rhea coordinated evacuation with tactical precision. Critical cases first, then stable patients, fastest movers last. She and Carson carried Bram between them. Behind them, the aid station canvas rippled one final time as another explosion tore through the exact spot where they had been standing 30 seconds earlier. The blast wave hit them like a physical hand, shoving them forward. They made it to the bunkers, all of them. Every single wounded soldier evacuated before the artillery strike obliterated the aid station. In the aftermath, as the attack finally died down, Carson found Rhea sitting outside the bunker entrance. She was staring at her hands covered in blood up to the elbows. "You saved a lot of lives tonight," Carson said, sitting beside her. "You reorganized triage under fire. You identified a tactical vulnerability. That is not normal for an Omega." "I have been at war for 6 years," Rhea replied. "You learn or you die. I chose to learn." Carson stood slowly. "For what it is worth, I am glad you are on our side." Commander Bram found her an hour later, moving with crutches, his legs splinted. The young soldier from earlier. He will live, thanks to you. Rhea nodded, tension leaving her shoulders. I am putting you in for a commendation. What you did tonight was combat leadership. It will not matter, Rhea replied. I am an Omega. Commendations do not change rank or station. Maybe not, but I will remember. And when opportunities arise, I will make sure the right people know what you are capable of. 6 months later, Rhea found herself far from border fortresses, standing in the royal gardens of Ethelgard during the Unity Summit, a gathering of pack leaders to forge alliances and prevent future conflicts. Rhea had been sent as part of her pack's delegation. Observe, report back, stay invisible. She had not planned on getting drunk, but the Moonshade whiskey had been easy to find. After months of battlefield trauma echoing in her mind, the smooth burn offered temporary escape. 1 glass became 3. By the time she wandered into the palace gardens, the world had taken on a pleasant fuzzy quality that made the weight of her Omega status feel distant and manageable. The gardens were beautiful. Flowers glowed with soft bioluminescence. Water fountains carved from black stone burbled in darkness. Peaceful, serene, everything the border fortresses were not. Rhea followed a winding path deeper into the garden maze. She just wanted space. Distance from nobles and their political games. That was when she heard voices. 2 men, tense. Rhea moved quietly toward the sound, staying in shadows. Years of combat zones had taught her invisibility. She saw them. High General Kastov in elaborate military dress. The other man impressive even in silhouette. Tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of presence that made space feel smaller. Pull back from the eastern ridge. The second man's voice was deep, controlled, but angry underneath. That is suicide, Kastov. The council believes your condition makes you a liability, Kastov replied with careful satisfaction. We need stable leadership. My condition. Each word fell like a stone. Is that what we are calling it now? What would you call it, Your Majesty? Your Majesty. Rhea felt her breath catch. The Alpha King, Beric. She should leave now, but she did not move. I call it none of your damn business, Beric said. The eastern ridge has 3 natural choke points. We withdraw, and the northern packs will control the valley within a week. Every soldier stationed there will be cut off. You are talking about abandonment. Kastov spread his hands. Perhaps if you were more stable, they would have more faith in your strategic decisions. Beric went very still, the stillness before violence. Get out of my sight, he said quietly. Kastov bowed and walked away, passing within 3 meters of Rhea's hiding spot without seeing her. She held her breath until he disappeared. Then she stepped out from behind the hedge. Beric stood facing the obsidian fountain, hands clenched at his sides. He looked like a man carrying weight that would crush anyone else. Rhea knew she should leave. Every survival instinct screamed at her to disappear. But the whiskey had dulled those instincts, and something else had taken their place. Anger. Because she had heard the entire conversation and knew with absolute certainty that the king was right and his counsel was wrong. You know, Rhea said, her voice carrying across the garden, for someone who claims to be a tactical genius, you are letting your counsel play you like a fool. Beric turned slowly. The moonlight caught his face, and Rhea's breath stopped in her throat. He was beautiful in the way that storms were beautiful. All sharp angles and hard lines and raw power barely contained. His eyes glowed amber in the darkness, and something in that glow made her wolf whimper and press closer at the same time. This was dangerous. This was the kind of danger that got Omegas hurt or dead or bound against their will. She should run. Instead, she took a step closer. Who are you? Beric asked. His voice was carefully controlled, but Rhea could hear something underneath. Not just anger, something else, something that made her skin prickle with awareness. No one important, Rhea replied. The whiskey made her bold even as every instinct screamed warnings. Just someone who knows the Eastern Ridge. Someone who has actually fought there instead of moving colored pins around a strategy table. Beric's eyes narrowed. Then he breathed in, deep, deliberate, and his entire body went rigid. The change was instant. His pupils dilated. The amber glow intensified until his eyes looked like molten gold. His hands unclenched slowly, deliberately, like he was fighting the urge to reach for her. Rhea felt it too. A pull, like invisible threads connecting them. Her wolf surged forward in her mind, more alert than she had been in months, years. She could smell him from here, rain and cedar and something wild underneath, something that called to every primal instinct she possessed. No, this could not be happening, not here, not with him. "What pack are you with?" Barrick's voice had dropped an octave. The question sounded casual, but his body language was anything but. He was holding himself very still, like he was afraid sudden movement would spook her, or like he was afraid of what he might do if he did not hold still. "Coastal territories," Rhea managed. Her mouth felt dry. "My alpha sent me to observe the summit." "Coastal territories." Barrick repeated the words slowly, then quieter. "What is your name?" "Rhea." He moved closer, not threatening, but deliberate, closing the distance between them with the focused intensity of a predator who had found something interesting. Rhea should back away, should maintain distance, should remember that she was nobody and he was the most powerful alpha in the kingdom. She stayed frozen in place. "Rhea," Barrick said, tasting her name. "Tell me something, Rhea, who is no one important. If you were defending the Eastern Ridge, where would you position your forces?" The question jolted her out of whatever spell his proximity had been weaving. Tactical analysis. That she could do. That was safe ground. "Carson's Pass first," she said. The strategic part of her brain kicked in automatically. It is the widest access point and easiest to reinforce. Put heavy artillery there, dug in with overlapping fields of fire. Devil's Gate second, but you would want mobile units that could shift between defensive positions. The northern approach is the wild card. Narrow passage, but difficult terrain. I would plant it with remote sensors and early warning systems, then have a rapid response team ready to deploy. She outlined the strategy in detail. Unit placements, supply line considerations, communication protocols, everything she had learned from watching battles unfold and studying what worked versus what got people killed. Barrick listened without interrupting. When she finally stopped talking, he was looking at her with an expression she could not quite read: assessment, curiosity, and something else that made heat pool low in her belly. "You have military training," he said. 3 tours on the southern border. Combat medic. You see enough battles, you start to understand how they work. Rhea tried to keep her voice steady, despite the way he was looking at her, despite the way her wolf was practically purring under that amber gaze. "Most medics focus on saving lives, not studying strategy. I am good at multitasking." Barrick smiled, small, almost reluctant, but genuine. It transformed his entire face, making him look less like a marble statue and more like an actual person. "I believe you are." He moved closer still, close enough that Rhea could feel the heat radiating from his body, close enough that his scent wrapped around her like a physical thing. Her wolf was going insane, pressing against her consciousness with urgent need. "Mine," her wolf whispered. "Ours, claim, bond, mine." No, absolutely not. This was the Alpha King. This was political suicide and personal disaster waiting to happen. This was everything she should run from. "The Eastern Ridge withdrawal is not just bad tactics," Rhea heard herself say. Anything to focus on something other than how close he was standing. "It is deliberate sabotage. Someone on your council is feeding intelligence to the northern packs. The attacks on supply convoys are too coordinated, too well-timed. You have a leak." Barrick's expression sharpened. "You can see that from attack patterns?" "I have watched good soldiers die from bad intelligence. You learn to recognize the signs." Rhea forced herself to meet his eyes despite the way it made her heart race. Someone wants you to fail. Someone is positioning themselves to take power when you do. "And you are telling me this why? You do not know me. You owe me nothing." "Because I am tired of watching people die for politicians' games." The words came out harsher than she intended. "Because the soldiers on the Eastern Ridge deserve better than being sacrificed for someone's ambition. Because you are making the right call, and someone needs to say so." Barrick stared at her for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small silver card case. He extracted a single card and held it out. Rhea took it automatically. Written in elegant script. "Report to War Room, 0600 hours. "What is this?" "A chance," Barrick said. His voice had gone soft, dangerous. "To prove what you just told me. To show my council that an Omega from nowhere can see threats they are deliberately ignoring." "They will never listen to me." "Then make them listen. I have a feeling you are good at that too." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice had dropped to something almost intimate. "Besides, I find I am not quite ready to let you disappear back into the shadows, Rhea from the coastal territories. Not when you smell like rain and wild roses and something I have been searching for without knowing I was searching." Ria's breath caught. That was not professional interest. That was not political maneuvering. That was mate recognition. Spoken out loud. Undeniable. "You do not know me," she whispered. "No, but I intend to." Barrick's hand came up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, his fingers brushed against her cheek. The touch was gentle, reverent, electric. 6 a.m, war room. "Do not make me send guards to drag you there, little wolf. That would be undignified for both of us." He stepped back. The loss of his proximity felt like cold water. Ria stood frozen, card clutched in her hand, as he walked away into the darkness. She could still feel the ghost of his touch on her skin, could still smell cedar and rain, could still hear her wolf howling with want and confusion and terror in equal measure. What had she just done? Morning came too quickly. Ria woke with a headache and the silver card still clutched in her hand. For a moment she thought it might have been a whiskey-induced dream. But the card was real. The memory of amber eyes and careful touch was real. The way her wolf had screamed mine was devastatingly real. She dressed in her most formal clothing and made her way through pre-dawn corridors. A guard at the war room entrance checked her card, then stepped aside without comment. The door opened onto a circular chamber dominated by a massive table covered in maps. Barrick stood at the far end. He looked up when she entered, and something passed across his face. Recognition, satisfaction, want. It was gone in an instant, replaced by professional neutrality, but Ria had seen it. Around the table were a dozen high-ranking officers. They turned as she entered. She felt the weight of their judgment settle over her. "This is a joke," High General Kastov said. "You cannot be serious." "I am completely serious." Barrick gestured to an empty spot at the table. "Ria, join us." She walked to the table on legs that felt steadier than they had any right to. Commander Bram was there, leaning on a cane. He caught her eye and gave a small nod of recognition. "Gentlemen," Barrick said, "this Omega has tactical insight regarding our border defenses. I have invited her here to present her assessment." "This is an insult," Kastov protested, "to real soldiers." "Then prove her wrong." Barrick's voice carried absolute authority. "Here are the Eastern Ridge positions. Ria, show them." Every eye turned to her. This was the moment. Prove herself or become a laughingstock. Ria stepped forward and placed her hands on the table edge, studying the map. Current troop positions marked in blue. Projected enemy movements in red. She looked at the display for 30 seconds. Then she saw it. "Your supply routes are compromised," she said quietly. The room went silent. "Impossible," Kastov said. "Those routes are secured." "Then your security is insufficient." Ria pointed to 3 positions on the map. These resupply stations, all positioned on predictable ground along main transit lines. Anyone with access to your logistics data could predict exactly when and where supply convoys would be traveling. She traced a line with her finger. The northern packs hit targets here, here, and here in the last month. All supply convoys, all positions that should have been secure. That is not random raiding. That is intelligence-driven warfare. "She is suggesting we have a spy," another general said. "I am suggesting you have a leak," Ria corrected. "It might be a spy. It might be compromised communications. But something is feeding information to the northern packs. The evidence is in the attack patterns." She outlined her analysis. Statistical improbability of so many successful ambushes without advanced knowledge. The generals listened. Some looked skeptical. Others were clearly considering her words. Commander Bram leaned forward. "I have seen her work on the southern border. She knows what she is talking about." "So what do you propose?" Barrick asked directly. "Change the patterns," Ria said. "Vary convoy schedules. Use alternate routes. Set up false supply runs to identify where leaks are coming from. And investigate everyone with access to logistics planning." She met Kastov's eyes. "Everyone." The implication hung in the air. Kastov's face went dark with anger. "Are you accusing me of treason?" "I am accusing someone of treason," Ria replied calmly. "Whether that is you or someone feeding you bad intelligence, I do not know yet, but the numbers do not lie." Barrick's hand came down on the table with a sharp crack. "Ria stays, as my strategic advisor, effective immediately." The room erupted in protests. Through it all, Barrick remained calm. When the noise died down, he spoke with quiet finality. "I am the Alpha King. I choose my advisors. Anyone who has a problem with that can tender their resignation." No one moved. The meeting dissolved, generals filing out in tight knots of conversation. Rhea stayed at the table trying to process what had just happened. In 12 hours, she had gone from invisible Omega to strategic advisor to the most powerful man in the kingdom. Beric remained when everyone else left. He did not speak immediately, just stood there looking at her with an expression she could not quite read. "That was brave," he finally said. "Or insane, possibly both." "Definitely both," Rhea admitted. "Castoff will make your life difficult. He already made that clear. And yet you stood your ground." Beric moved around the table until he was standing directly in front of her. Close, too close. His scent wrapped around her, and Rhea had to fight the urge to lean into it. Why? Because someone needed to say it. Because the alternative is watching more soldiers die. She forced herself to meet his eyes. "And because you already knew I was right. You just needed someone with enough nerve to say it publicly." "I did know," Beric agreed. "What I did not know was that I would find someone who smelled like home and thought like a general and had absolutely no sense of self-preservation." His hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch lingered longer than necessary. "You are either going to save this kingdom or destroy me. I have not decided which yet." "I vote for saving," Rhea managed. Her voice sounded breathless to her own ears. "Then we should probably discuss what happens next. After we expose the conspiracy, after we secure the borders, after we survive whatever Castoff and his allies throw at us." His thumb traced along her jaw, gentle, possessive. "Because this thing between us, this pull, you feel it too. Do not lie and tell me you do not." "I feel it," Rhea whispered, "but that does not mean acting on it is wise." "Wisdom is overrated. I have been wise and careful and controlled for 10 years. It has gotten me exactly nowhere." Beric's eyes blazed amber. "But then a drunk Omega with tactical genius and no sense of protocol walks into my garden and tells me I am being played. And I think maybe wisdom is not what I need. Maybe what I need is someone reckless enough to stand beside me and call it like they see it." "That sounds like a terrible plan." "The worst. But I cannot seem to care." He stepped back, putting professional distance between them. "We have work to do, evidence to gather, conspiracies to unravel. But Rhea, once we start this, there is no going back. You will be a target. You will have enemies. And I will not be able to let you leave. Not when my wolf has decided you are worth keeping." There it was, spoken plainly, the mate bond he had recognized, the claim he was barely holding back. Rhea should refuse, should find a way to escape before this became something she could not walk away from. Instead, she heard herself say, "Then we better make sure we win." Beric's smile was sharp and satisfied, and more than a little dangerous. "Indeed we had. Come, let me show you what we are up against." He led her to his private study. This was not the public war room. This was smaller, more intimate. Books lined every wall. A large desk dominated the center, covered in papers and reports. Beric moved to a locked cabinet and extracted a leather-bound volume. He placed it on the desk between them. "My father's journal, and his father's before him. Every Alpha King for 5 generations has kept a record of the curse's progression." Rhea opened the book carefully. The pages were filled with neat handwriting that gradually deteriorated into barely legible scrawls. She recognized the pattern. Neurological damage, the kind she had seen in soldiers with severe PTSD. "Read," Beric said quietly. She did. The entries were clinical at first, documenting symptoms, tremors, insomnia, heightened aggression, but as years progressed, desperation crept in, hallucinations, dissociative episodes, the feeling of carrying too many minds in one skull. One entry near the end made her breath catch. "I can hear them screaming. Every soldier who died under my command, every civilian caught in crossfire, every enemy I killed with my own hands, they are all here, in my head, demanding I remember, demanding I carry their deaths forever." "That was written by my grandfather," Beric said. 2 weeks before he threw himself from the highest tower. The official story was an accident. The truth was suicide." Rhea closed the journal carefully. "This is not mystical curse. This is compound trauma. Generational PTSD passed down through bloodline and ritual. And it will kill me eventually, just like it killed him, just like it killed my father." Beric's voice was matter-of-fact. "The only question is whether I go mad first or whether I find a way to manage it long enough to matter." "There has to be a way to break it." There was. The seers. Omegas with abilities like yours. They could share the burden, balance the darkness with light, create bonds that let kings stay sane. Beric looked at her directly, but the bloodline died out, or was eliminated, because queens who could stabilize kings became threats to council power. The pieces clicked into place. Morarana knows what I am. I suspect so. Then why has she not moved against me? Because you are more valuable as leverage. If she exposes you publicly, I might be forced to protect you. That creates conflict. But if she waits, she can use you when it serves her purpose. Beric moved closer. That is why we need to move carefully. Build evidence. Expose the conspiracy before she can use you against me. Or before you complete the bond and lock me in place, Rhea said quietly. Beric stopped. I would never force that on you. The bond has to be chosen, both sides, freely, or it becomes another type of prison. His hand came up, cupping her cheek. But I will not lie and pretend I do not want it. You walk into a room and my wolf goes quiet for the first time in years. You touch my hand and the noise stops. You stand beside me and I can think clearly. That is not just attraction, Rhea. That is recognition, and it terrifies me as much as it calls to me. Rhea leaned into his touch despite every logical reason not to. I do not want to be a tool. Then do not be. Be a partner. Be an equal. Be someone who stands beside me by choice, not obligation. His thumb traced her lower lip. I am asking for time. Time to prove I am worth choosing. Time to show you that this thing between us is real. Can you give me that? She should say no, should protect herself, should remember that she was nobody, and he was a king who carried curses and political danger. Instead, she whispered, yes. Beric's kiss was nothing like she expected, not demanding or controlling, careful, almost reverent, like he was afraid she might shatter if he pushed too hard. His lips moved against hers with deliberate gentleness, and when she opened for him, the sound he made was pure relief. The kiss deepened slowly. His hand slid into her hair, cradling her head as he explored her mouth with thorough attention. Rhea gripped his shirt, holding on as her knees went weak. She could feel the tremor in his hands, the way he was holding himself back, the leashed control that said he wanted more but would not take it without permission. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Beric pressed his forehead against hers. I have waited my entire life for someone who was not afraid of me. Someone who looked at the curse and saw a man worth helping instead of a weapon to be used or a monster to be avoided. Thank you for being brave enough to see me. I see you, Rhea whispered. Cursed king, tactical genius, man who carries impossible weight and still stands. I see you. And I see you. Combat medic turned strategic advisor, woman who saves lives and wins wars, Omega who refused to let rank define capability. He kissed her again, soft and sweet. This is going to be complicated. The best things usually are. Then let us complicate things properly, together, as partners. He pulled back, putting professional distance between them again. But first, we have a conspiracy to expose. Ready to change the world? Rhea straightened, squared her shoulders. Let the tactical part of her brain take over, even as her wolf purred contentment at the lingering taste of him. Always ready. And as dawn broke over Ethelgard, painting the mountains in gold and crimson, Rhea realized her life had fundamentally changed. She was no longer invisible, no longer powerless. She was the Alpha King's chosen partner, his mate, his equal. And together they were going to tear down every system that said that was impossible. The war had only just begun. The first mission came 4 days later. Not a grand operation, just verification. Beric needed to see the eastern ridge with his own eyes, needed to confirm what Rhea had claimed about the supply routes and vulnerabilities. Kastoff had been pushing back hard against the changes Rhea proposed, using bureaucratic resistance to slow everything down. Direct observation would bypass that resistance. It was also, Rhea suspected, a test, to see if she could function in the field, to see if the tactical advice translated to actual capability. She did not mind. She had been tested her entire life. One more test was nothing. They left before dawn. Small team. Beric, Rhea, Bram, and 4 elite guards, moving quietly through mountain passes toward the disputed territory. The early morning air was cold enough to burn in the lungs, perfect for staying alert. Beric rode beside Rhea, close enough that their horses occasionally brushed against each other. close enough that she could feel his presence like a constant warmth despite the chill. He had not touched her since the kiss in his study, had maintained careful professional distance in public, but his eyes tracked her constantly, possessive, protective, like he was fighting the urge to keep her within arm's reach at all times. Her wolf loved it. Rhea herself was more conflicted. She valued independence, but there was something deeply satisfying about being watched by someone who saw her as precious instead of disposable. "Tell me about the southern border," Barrick said quietly, his voice pitched just for her. "What was it like?" "Brutal. Fast. Nothing like the organized warfare you see up here." Rhea kept her eyes on the trail ahead. The southern packs do not do sieges or strategic positioning. They hit fast, hit hard, and disappear before you can respond. You learn to treat every moment like combat could start in the next second. That is where you learn to think tactically. That is where I learned to survive. Thinking tactically was just the tool that kept me alive. She glanced at him. "What about you? You command armies, but have you ever actually fought?" "I have fought," Barrick replied. There was something dark in his voice. "More than I wanted to, less than some expected. The curse makes sustained combat difficult. When adrenaline spikes, the darkness rises. I can control it for short periods, but extended engagement risks losing control entirely, becoming the feral weapon my council wants me to be." "So you compensate with strategy. Stay back, command from distance." "Exactly, which makes some see me as weak. They do not understand that staying controlled requires more strength than giving in to rage." His hand tightened on the reins. "You understand that. You have seen soldiers who lost themselves to combat high, who kept fighting past the point of reason." Rhea nodded. She had seen it. Had treated soldiers who could not come down from the adrenaline, who kept seeing enemies that were not there. Combat trauma manifested in many ways. Barrick's curse was just a supernatural version of the same psychology. They reached the eastern ridge as sun cleared the horizon. The view was spectacular and tactical all at once. 3 natural choke points exactly where Rhea had described them: Carson's Pass, Devil's Gate, Northern Approach, each one critical, each one vulnerable if not properly defended. Barrick dismounted and moved to the edge of the overlook, studying the terrain with the focused intensity of a commander assessing his battlefield. Rhea joined him, pointing out key features: sightlines, dead zones, places where ambushes could be staged, places where defenses would be strongest. "You were right," Barrick said after a long moment. "About all of it. The withdrawal would be disaster. Anyone with field experience can see it, which means Kastov either lacks field experience or he is deliberately giving bad advice. Or someone is giving him bad advice," Bram added. He had been conducting his own assessment. "These positions should be reinforced, not abandoned. Whoever suggested otherwise either incompetent or compromised." They spent 2 hours mapping the area, taking notes, documenting everything. This was evidence, proof that could be presented to counter Kastov's recommendations. It was tedious work, but necessary. Rhea was examining a narrow trail when she felt it, the prickle of wrongness. Sixth sense developed from years in combat zones. They were being watched. She touched Barrick's arm. Silent warning. His eyes sharpened immediately, following her gaze to the ridgeline above them. Nothing visible, but the feeling persisted. Bram had felt it too. He signaled the guards. Weapons came out, everyone moving to defensive positions with practiced efficiency. No panic, just professionals responding to threat. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Northern pack scouts, 6 of them, not a full assault, just reconnaissance that had turned into opportunity when they spotted the Alpha King exposed. Barrick moved with shocking speed. His combat style was nothing like the controlled strategy she associated with him. This was pure predator, fast, brutal, efficient. He met the first attacker head-on, dodging the blade strike and countering with a blow that sent the man sprawling. Rhea drew her own weapon. Standard-issue combat knife. She was no warrior, but 6 years in war zones taught you how to defend yourself. The scout who came at her clearly expected easy prey. Omega, non-combatant, vulnerable. He learned otherwise when she sidestepped his lunge and opened his arm with a precise cut. Not deep enough to cripple, just enough to make him reconsider his tactical assessment. He pulled back, eyes wide with surprise. The fight was over in less than 3 minutes. 1 scout dead, 2 badly wounded, 3 retreating at speed. Barrick stood in the center of the carnage, breathing hard, eyes blazing amber. The curse was rising. She could see it, dark smoke beginning to swirl around him like living shadow. Rhea moved to him immediately, placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. "Breathe," she said firmly. "Focus on my voice. Focus on physical sensation. You are here. You are safe. The fight is over." Barrick's hand came up to cover hers, gripping tight, using her touch as anchor. His breathing slowly steadied. The amber glow began to dim. The dark smoke receded. After a long moment, he was back, controlled, himself again. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That is what partners do. We ground each other when the darkness tries to pull us under." Rhea kept her hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat slow to normal rhythm. "You did well. Stayed controlled longer than you thought you could. Because you were here." Barrick's voice was raw with emotion. "Because I knew if I lost it, you would bring me back. That makes all the difference." Bram approached carefully. "We need to move. Those scouts will report back. We will have company within the hour." They mounted up and rode hard for friendly territory, put distance between themselves and any pursuit. By the time they reached the fortress, the adrenaline had faded, leaving behind exhaustion and the sharp clarity that came after surviving combat. Barrick caught Rhea's arm before she could disappear to her quarters. "You fought well. Where did you learn knife work?" "Southern border. You either learn or you become a casualty." Rhea looked at where his hand circled her wrist. Possessive hold, gentle but firm. "You can let go now. I am not going anywhere." "I know, but my wolf is having trouble accepting that. He wants you close, wants to keep you safe, wants to make sure everyone knows you are mine to protect." Barrick's thumb traced small circles on her pulse point. "Tell me if I am crossing lines. Tell me if this is too much." "It is too much," Rhea admitted. "But I do not entirely mind. Just warn me before you go full possessive alpha. Give me time to adjust." "I will try, though my wolf is not always reasonable about these things." He pulled her closer. Not a kiss, just proximity, his forehead resting against hers. "You saved my life today, not just from the scouts, from the curse, from myself. That kind of debt is not easy to repay. I do not want repayment, I want partnership, which means I save you when you need saving, and you save me when I need saving. Equal exchange." "Equal exchange," Barrick agreed. Then he kissed her, hard and fast and claiming, not gentle like the first time. This was possession, relief, the aftermath of combat channeled into physical connection. When he pulled back, his eyes were blazing. "Mine, even if the bond is not complete yet, even if you have not formally chosen. You are mine, and I am yours, and anyone who tries to come between us will learn exactly why they call me the Alpha King." Rhea should protest the possessiveness, should remind him that she was not property, but her wolf was howling approval, and her own pulse was racing, and the truth was, she wanted to be claimed, wanted to belong to someone who saw her value, wanted to stop fighting alone. "Yours," she whispered, "for as long as you want me." "Forever, then. Because I do not think I could let you go, even if I tried." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Go rest, heal. Tomorrow we plan our next move together." Rhea went to her quarters in a daze, body exhausted, mind racing, wolf purring contentment. She had fought beside the Alpha King, had grounded him through a curse episode, had been claimed in words if not yet in bond. Her life had become something she never imagined. Dangerous, exhilarating, terrifying, perfect. And she would not trade it for anything. The library was Rhea's sanctuary, 3 stories of leather-bound wisdom illuminated by soft magical light that never quite reached the shadowed corners. She had discovered it 2 days after the Eastern Ridge mission, when the reality of what she had agreed to started pressing down on her shoulders. Strategic advisor. The Alpha King's acknowledged interest, a target on her back for every council member who saw her as a threat. Sometimes she needed to remember she was still just Rhea, combat medic who had learned to think tactically because the alternative was watching people die, not this new person everyone was trying to make her into. It was past midnight when she heard footsteps on the marble floor. Quiet, deliberate. She knew without looking who it was. Had come to recognize the particular rhythm of his movement, the way the air changed when he entered a space. Barrick emerged from the shadows, still dressed in formal council attire, but with his jacket discarded and shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked exhausted, worn down by hours of political maneuvering, but his eyes found her immediately, amber glow brightening with something that looked like relief. "I thought I might find you here," he said quietly. "Could not sleep. Too much in my head." Rhea closed the book she had been pretending to read. Medical text on treating psychological trauma. She was trying to understand his curse from clinical perspective, trying to find answers in science since magic seemed determined to destroy him. "You are researching the curse." It was not a question. He had moved closer, looking at the stack of books surrounding her reading chair. All on trauma, memory, the way repeated stress rewired neural pathways. "You will not find answers there. I have looked. My father looked, his father looked. This is not something medicine can fix." Maybe not, but understanding it helps. Knowing why the tremor happens, why the hallucinations manifest under stress, why full moons make it worse. Rhea stood, closing distance between them. "You told me partnership means sharing burdens. Let me share this one. Let me try to help even if the help is imperfect." Barrick reached out slowly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch lingered, his fingers trailing along her jaw. "I do not deserve you." "Probably not, but you are stuck with me anyway." She tried for levity, despite the way her heart was racing at his proximity. Despite the way her wolf was pressing close, wanting more contact, wanting to close the final distance between them. "Why are you really here, Barrick? Besides checking that I have not disappeared into some book-related accident. Can I not simply want to see you? You could, but you look like you have been through 12 rounds of political hell. You came here for a reason." He sighed, ran a hand through his hair, disrupting the careful styling, making him look younger, more human. "The council called emergency session. Castoff has been building support for the right of challenge, ancient law that lets council demand proof of fitness if they get 2/3 majority vote." Rhea felt cold settle in her stomach. "And he has the votes. 7 members in favor, 4 opposed, 2 abstaining. The trial will be in 3 weeks, during the full moon." Barrick's voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the fear underneath. "They are timing it for when the curse will be at peak strength, maximum chance of public failure. Then we make sure you do not fail." Rhea took his hand, the one that trembled, held it steady between both of hers. "We have 3 weeks. We use that time to build evidence, expose the conspiracy, show the people that the council's concerns are manufactured crisis designed to grab power. Evidence requires proof. Proof requires investigation. Investigation requires going into dangerous situations." Barrick's other hand came up to cup her face. "I need to send you on a mission. Intelligence gathering in Northern Pack territory. You would be going alone, undercover, into the heart of enemy ground. And I hate everything about that plan, even though it is the only way forward. Because you do not think I can handle it. Because I know you can handle it. That is the problem." His thumb traced her lower lip. "You are capable and clever and absolutely reckless when it comes to your own safety. My wolf wants to lock you in a tower and post guards. My mind knows you are the only person who can do this. The conflict is making me insane." Rhea understood the feeling. Part of her wanted to refuse, to stay safe, to let someone else take the risk. But the larger part, the part that had spent 6 years running toward danger instead of away from it, knew he was right. This was the mission. This was how they won. "Tell me what you need me to find." Barrick pulled her close. Not a kiss, just proximity. His forehead resting against hers while his hands framed her face like she was something precious. Documents. Communications between Morirana and Northern Pack leadership. Proof that the conspiracy reaches beyond Castoff to the council itself. Evidence we can present publicly that cannot be dismissed as fabrication. "And if I get caught? Then I tear down every stone of their stronghold to get you back. Then I start a war I have been trying to avoid. Then I prove to the council exactly what happens when they take what is mine." His voice had dropped to a growl. Possessive, protective, dangerous. "But you will not get caught, because you are brilliant and trained and careful. Because I am going to make sure you have every tool and contingency, because losing you is not an option I am willing to consider." "Possessive much?" But Rhea was smiling despite the gravity of the conversation, despite the fear curling in her belly at the thought of infiltrating enemy territory. "You have no idea." Barrick kissed her then, not gentle like before. This was claiming, desperation, the kiss of a man who was terrified of losing something he had only just found. His hand slid into her hair, holding her steady as he explored her mouth with thorough intensity. Rhea's knees went weak. She gripped his shirt, holding on as the kiss deepened, could taste his fear and desire and the absolute determination not to let her go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were blazing amber. "If anything happens to you," he said quietly, fiercely, "if they hurt you, if you do not come back, I will burn their entire territory to the ground and salt the earth. Do you understand? I will become exactly the monster they claim I am, so you better come back, for both our sakes." "I will come back. I always complete my missions." Rhea kissed him again, soft, reassuring. "But I need details, timeline, support structure, extraction plans. If we are doing this, we do it right." They spent the next 2 hours in the library planning. Seraphine joined them, bringing maps and intelligence reports. Commander Bram arrived shortly after, his tactical expertise essential for planning extraction. By the time false dawn started lightening the eastern sky, they had a complete operation mapped. Rhea would infiltrate as a servant, transferring between households. The Northern Alpha was hosting diplomatic gathering in 5 days. Perfect cover, perfect timing. She would have 3 days inside to locate documents and copy what she could. "The study is 3rd floor eastern wing," Seraphine explained, pointing to detailed floor plan. 2 guards during day, 1 at night. Shift change at midnight gives you 30-minute window. Magical wards? Keyed to alpha and beta signatures. Your omega energy will not register. That is your advantage. Seraphine's expression was serious. But the disadvantage is if something goes wrong, you have no alpha power to fight your way out. You will be dependent on stealth and luck. "Luck has kept me alive this long," Rhea replied. Bram pulled out a small blade. "My daughter carried this on her first solo operation. I want you to have it. For luck, for protection, for coming home." Rhea took the knife carefully, perfectly balanced, well maintained. "I will bring it back." "I know you will." Bram looked at Barrick. "We will have extraction team positioned at 3 points along the border. If she signals, we can be inside Northern Territory in under an hour." "If I signal, you stay put," Rhea interrupted. "If this goes sideways, the last thing we need is you starting an international incident trying to rescue me. I get myself out or I do not. Those are the only options that do not end in war." Barrick's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Agreed. But understand that if you do not make extraction window, agreement becomes void and I am coming for you regardless of consequences." The meeting broke up as full dawn arrived. Seraphine and Bram left to prepare support logistics. Rhea started to follow, but Barrick caught her hand. "Stay," he said quietly. "Just for a moment, please." She stayed. Let him pull her close. Let him hold her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. His face buried in her hair, breathing deep like he was trying to memorize her scent. "I do not like this plan," he said. "I hate everything about it, but I understand why it is necessary. I will be careful. I will be smart. I will come back." Rhea tilted her head back to look at him. "Trust me, the way I trust you." "I do trust you. That is not the issue. The issue is, I am falling in love with you, and the thought of sending you into danger makes me want to lock you away where nothing can touch you. Which I know is wrong, which I know you would hate, but my wolf does not care about right and wrong. He only cares about keeping what is his." Rhea's breath caught. "You love me. Is that so surprising? You walked into my life and turned everything upside down. You challenge me, you ground me, you see the man behind the curse and choose to stand beside him anyway. How could I not love you?" Rhea struggled for words. "I do not know what to say." "Then say nothing. Just come back to me. Come back, and we will figure out the rest together." He kissed her forehead, gentle, reverent. "Go rest. We have 5 days. Use them well." The next 4 days were intense preparation. Rhea memorized floor plans, studied Northern Pack customs, practiced the submissive body language expected of Omega servants, learned to make herself small, invisible, the opposite of everything she had become at Ethelgard. But the nights belonged to Barrick. He would find her in the library or training grounds or her quarters, never pushing for more than she offered, but always close, always present, building connection through proximity and conversation and stolen kisses that left her wanting more. On the third night, she found him in the kitchens. He was sitting at the long preparation table, surrounded by paperwork he was clearly not actually reading. A half-eaten meal sat abandoned beside him. He looked up when she entered, and the exhaustion on his face made her heart hurt. "Could not sleep?" she asked, moving to sit across from him. "Council meeting ran late. Castoff is pushing hard on the trial preparations. Wants public spectacle. Maximum humiliation when I supposedly fail." Barrick pushed the papers away. "I came here because it is quiet, because the servants are asleep, and I do not have to be the Alpha King for a few hours." "So who are you when you are not being the Alpha King?" Tired, scared, wishing I could just be a person instead of a symbol. He looked at her directly. "Wishing I could take you far away from political conspiracies and cursed bloodlines and people who want to use us both. But that is not an option. So instead I sit in kitchens at midnight pretending I have any control over what happens next." Rhea stood and moved around the table, pulled him to his feet. "Dance with me." "What?" "Dance with me. No music, no audience. Just two people taking a moment to remember what we are fighting for." She placed his hand on her waist, took his other hand in hers. "Trust me." Barrick smiled, small but genuine. "You are strange, Rhea from the coastal territories. You have no idea." She started moving. Slow swaying motion. Not quite dancing, just movement to an internal rhythm. Barrick followed her lead, letting her guide him through the quiet kitchen. They moved together in comfortable silence. His scent wrapped around her like safety. His warmth seeped into her bones. This was what she wanted, not grand gestures or political power, just this, connection, understanding. Someone who saw her and still chose to stay. "Thank you," Barrick said quietly, "for this, for everything, for being exactly what I needed without knowing I needed it. That is what mates do. We save each other in small ways every day." Rhea rested her head against his chest, could hear his heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. "I am coming back from this mission, I promise. I am not leaving you alone in the dark again. You better keep that promise, because I do not think I could survive losing you." His arms tightened around her. "I have lived 10 years under this curse, 10 years of fighting alone. I can go back to that if I must, but I really do not want to." "Then you will not have to." Rhea looked up at him. "Because I choose you, Barrick. Cursed king. Tactical genius. Man who carries impossible weight and still makes time to dance in kitchens. I choose you." The kiss was inevitable, deep and slow and full of promise. Barrick lifted her onto the preparation table, stepping between her legs without breaking contact. His hands framed her face, while hers gripped his shirt, holding him close. This was more than attraction, more than chemistry. This was recognition, acceptance, the beginning of something that could become forever if they were brave enough to reach for it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Barrick pressed his forehead to hers. "When you come back, when this mission is complete and we have exposed the conspiracy and survived the trial, I want to complete the bond, properly, permanently. I want you to be mine in every way that matters." "Yes," Rhea whispered. "Whatever comes after, yes." "Then survive. For us. For the future we are going to build together." "I will, I promise." The infiltration happened exactly as planned. Rhea crossed into Northern Pack territory disguised as transferring servant. Border guards barely glanced at her papers. Omegas were invisible. That was her advantage and her shield. The northern compound was exactly as Seraphine had described. Military fortress disguised as diplomatic residence. She presented forged transfer documents to the steward, who processed them with bored efficiency. Within an hour, she was assigned quarters and duties. The first 2 days were reconnaissance. Rhea cleaned floors and served meals and moved through the compound like a ghost. She mapped patrol routes, noted guard rotations, identified security vulnerabilities, professional soldier habits applied to domestic service. On the third night, she made her move, waited for midnight shift change, then slipped away from assigned area. The eastern wing was quiet. Moonlight filtered through tall windows, casting long shadows. The study door was locked. Rhea used the picks Seraphine had provided. The mechanism clicked open in under 30 seconds. Inside, the room matched the intelligence perfectly. Large desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, locked cabinet against far wall. The cabinet lock was more complex. She worked by feel, listening to tumblers. 4 minutes. The mechanism gave with soft click. Inside were exactly what she needed. Correspondence files, treaty drafts, financial records. She used the small camera Seraphine had provided, photographing each page with silent efficiency. The evidence was damning, undeniable. This would destroy Morirana's conspiracy permanently. She was returning files to precise positions when footsteps sounded outside. Rhea froze. Shift change should have bought 30 minutes. She had been inside for 20. Someone was early. The door opened. 2 guards entered. Not regular patrol, specific check. Someone had noticed something wrong. Rhea dove behind the desk. Her heart hammered loud enough she was sure they would hear. The cabinet lock was closed, but not properly secured. Anyone trained would notice. "Thought I heard something," one guard said. "Check the windows. I will check the cabinet." Rhea's hand went to Bram's knife, last resort. If it came to combat, she had seconds before the entire compound mobilized. The guard moved toward the cabinet, reached for the handle. His nose wrinkled. "You smell that?" "What?" "Omega. Recent. Very recent." They were scenting her. Rhea's concealment was good, but not perfect. Extended time in the room had left traces. The second guard drew his weapon. "Show yourself. Now!" Before Rhea could decide her next move, an explosion rocked the compound. Not close, maybe 200 meters away, but loud enough to shake walls and send both guards running toward the window. "North wall," one said. "That is the armory." They ran from the room toward the crisis. Rhea waited 5 heartbeats to make sure they were gone, then moved. Slipped out of the study, camera secured. The hallway was chaos, guards running, servants being evacuated. Everyone focused on the explosion. She joined a group of Omega servants being moved to lower levels, kept her head down. No one questioned her presence. Panic made people blind to details. Extraction was textbook perfect. She made it to perimeter wall while guards were still mobilizing. Scaled it using climbing gear from her pack, dropped into forest beyond. Behind her, the compound alarm finally began to wail, but she was already gone, disappearing into darkness with evidence that could topple kingdoms. The explosion had been Bram's extraction team. They must have triggered it remotely when they realized she was in danger, creating chaos to cover her escape. It worked perfectly. She reached extraction point 3 kilometers later. Bram waited with 4 guards and horses. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes betrayed relief when he saw her. "Documents?" he asked quietly. Rhea pulled the camera from waterproof inner pocket, handed it over. "Everything we need, treaties, financial records, communications showing the full conspiracy." "And you are uninjured?" "Clean extraction, thanks to your timely distraction." But Rhea had lied. She was not uninjured, not entirely, because 50 meters from the wall, someone had been waiting. Morirana. The High Priestess had stepped out of shadows directly in Rhea's path. No guards, no backup. Just a woman in violet robes and a smile that held no warmth whatsoever. "Hello, little seer," Morirana had said. "I have been wondering when you would come." Rhea's hand had gone to her knife. Morirana laughed. "Please, you are outmatched. I could kill you before you finished drawing that blade, but I have no intention of killing you, not yet." "What do you want?" "To deliver a message." Morirana moved closer. Power radiated from her like heat. Ancient. Terrible. "Tell Barrack that the trial is inevitable. He will fall to the curse. He will fail publicly. And when the council votes to remove him, I will be the one who crowns his successor. Everything you discovered tonight changes nothing. The game is already over. You just do not know it yet." "You are wrong," Rhea had said. Her voice was steady despite the fear. "You think power comes from manipulation, from controlling variables. But real power comes from partnership, from people choosing to stand together. That is something you will never understand." Morirana's smile had widened. How idealistic, how naive, and how utterly pointless. She stepped aside, gesturing to the wall. "Run, little seer. Take your documents. Present your evidence. Watch it accomplish nothing. The council fears the curse more than they value truth. Fear always wins." Then, Morirana had done something Rhea still did not understand. She had reached out and touched Rhea's forehead. Brief contact, less than a second, but pain had lanced through Rhea's skull like lightning. Vision blurred. When it cleared, Morirana was gone, and Rhea had been left with the terrible knowledge that Morirana had done something, planted something, left some kind of magical mark. She could feel it, cold spot in her mind that should not be there. She had not told Bram, had not told anyone, because Rhea did not know what Morirana had done, and admitting it might compromise the entire mission. Better to stay quiet, deal with it after the trial, after they had won. At least that was what she told herself. Beric was waiting at the fortress when they arrived. He stood when she entered, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. Relief and fear and love all mixed together. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "You came back," he said into her hair. "Thank the gods you came back. I promised I would." Rhea held him tight, letting his warmth chase away the cold spot Morirana had left. "I keep my promises." "Never do that again." "Do what? Complete a successful intelligence-gathering operation? Scare me like that. Make me watch helplessly while you walk into danger." He pulled back enough to look at her. Really look at her. His eyes narrowed. "Something happened. Something you are not saying." Curse the mate bond. He could already feel her emotions, sense when she was hiding things. "Nothing that matters right now. We got the evidence. That is what is important." "Rhea, after the trial," she said firmly. "After we have won. Then I will tell you everything. But right now we need to focus on what comes next. Can you trust me on this?" Beric did not look happy about it, but he nodded. "After the trial. But that is a conversation we will have, little wolf. No more secrets between us." "Agreed. No more secrets." Seraphine arrived to analyze the documents. After 2 hours of methodical cross-referencing, she looked up with satisfaction. "This is comprehensive and damning. Morirana's signature is on everything. Treaty proposals, payment records, communications about the trial. We have her." "Can we use it?" Beric asked. "If we go public, make it impossible for the council to suppress. The trial is perfect venue. Ancient law requires public proceedings, thousands of witnesses. If we present evidence there, it will spread before they can contain it." They spent the next 3 days building coalition. Lord Varen arrived first. The border lord was in his 60s, gray-haired and weathered by years of frontier defense. He looked at the evidence with fury that built slowly as he read. "Kastov authorized raids on my territory," Varen said quietly. "Controlled anger. My soldiers, my people. He gave Northern Pax our patrol schedules. I lost 30 men in those attacks, 30 good soldiers who trusted me to keep them safe." "I know," Beric said. "I am sorry. If I had known earlier." "You were fighting your own battles. I understand that now." Varen looked up. "What do you need from me?" "Public support at the trial, testimony about the attacks, willingness to stand against the council when this goes public. You have it. And I can bring 5 other border lords with me. We have been sharing intelligence about suspicious patterns. We knew something was wrong. Now we know how deep it goes." Varen's jaw tightened. 30 men. Kastov owes me blood debt for their deaths. I will collect at the trial." Lord Corwin arrived the next day. Younger than Varen. Early 40s. Still raw from loss. His brother had died in a northern pack raid 3 months ago. The pain was fresh enough to make his commitment visceral rather than political. "They called my brother's murder a field test," Corwin said, holding the communications that detailed the raid. His hands were shaking. "An intelligence network field test, like he was a training dummy instead of a person." Rhea recognized the grief, had seen it in too many soldiers who lost comrades to betrayal. "I am sorry for your loss. Your brother deserved better. He deserved leadership that did not sell him out for political gain." Corwin looked at Beric. "You have my support, my territory's support, and every soldier who served under my brother will stand with us. We are tired of dying for council ambitions." The coalition was small but fierce. 8 lords, maybe 100 key supporters, not enough to guarantee victory, but enough to make the fight costly for Morirana, enough to force the council to respond rather than simply suppress. They held final strategy meeting the day before the trial. Everyone assembled in secure room, maps and documents spread across table. This was war planning, political combat instead of physical, but war nonetheless. 15 people total. Beric at the head, Rhea beside him, Bram and Seraphine flanking, Varen and Corwin with their key officers, intelligence analysts, loyal veterans. This was the command staff, the core group that would either save the kingdom or die trying. Beric stood, hands braced on the table. "You all know why we are here. Tomorrow, the council attempts to remove me from power. They expect me to fall to the curse publicly, to prove their narrative that I am unfit to rule. We are going to give them something else entirely." He gestured to the documents. "Evidence of conspiracy, treason, collaboration with foreign powers that resulted in kingdom soldiers' deaths. This is not just about me keeping my crown. This is about exposing systematic corruption that has cost lives. Your soldiers, your families, your friends." Varen spoke up. "What is the strategy? How do we present this without getting shut down immediately?" "The trial has 3 phases," Beric explained. "Combat demonstration, strategic assessment, public address. The council controls the first 2, but the public address is mine. Ancient law gives the king uninterrupted time to speak directly to assembled citizens. That is when we present evidence. That is when we force them to respond in front of thousands of witnesses." "They will call it forgery," one of Corwin's officers said. "Manufactured evidence to deflect from your instability." "Let them," Seraphine replied. "We have magical verification, signature authentication, cross-referenced dates and events. Any forensic examination will confirm authenticity. If they refuse to investigate, that itself becomes damning. Either they accept the evidence or they reveal themselves as complicit." "What about physical security?" Rhea asked. She had been quiet, listening, but now her tactical mind engaged. "Morirana will not just stand by while we destroy her. She will have contingency plans, possibly including violence." "My men are positioned throughout the crowd," Varen confirmed. "Armed, ready. If Morirana tries anything physical, we respond with overwhelming force. She might control the council, but she does not control the military. Not all of it, anyway." "The northern packs might attack during trial," Corwin added. "Their forces mobilized on the border. Coordinated timing would let Morirana claim the kingdom is under invasion, create emergency that requires strong leadership, meaning her puppet on the throne." "Which is why I have 3 full companies standing by," Bram said. "If northern packs cross the border, they will be met with defensive response that sends them running home. We are ready for that contingency." They reviewed the plan again. Every detail, every contingency, every possible way Morirana could try to stop them, and how they would counter. The meeting ran for hours. Questions, concerns, refinements. Finally, as evening approached, Rhea stood. "I have a question, one that no one has asked yet. What happens after we win? After we expose the conspiracy and Beric keeps his crown? What comes next?" The room went quiet, everyone looking at her. "Because the systems that created this mess are still in place," Rhea continued. "The council structure that lets corrupt members manipulate power. The rank hierarchy that says Omegas cannot lead. The military command that lets generals betray their own soldiers. If we win tomorrow but change nothing, someone else will just try this again in 5 years, 10 years. We need to think bigger than just surviving. We need to think about actually fixing what is broken." Beric was looking at her with expression that was part pride, part love, part awe. "What are you proposing?" "Reform, real reform, term limits for council members, merit-based promotions in military regardless of rank, oversight systems that make it harder for one person to accumulate dangerous amounts of power, changes that make this kind of conspiracy harder to execute next time." Rhea met his eyes. "You asked me to be your strategic advisor, to be your partner, so I am advising you to win the battle tomorrow and prepare to win the war for Kingdom's future. Are you willing to do that?" Silence for a long moment. Then Varen started to chuckle, low and warm. "I like her. She thinks like a revolutionary disguised as a tactician." "That is exactly what she is," Beric agreed. His voice was warm, proud. "And she is absolutely right. We are not just fighting for my crown. We are fighting for a better kingdom. One where rank does not define capability, where leaders serve instead of ruling, where partnerships like ours are possible instead of impossible." He looked around the table. "So I am asking all of you, not just will you stand with me tomorrow, but will you stand with me afterward, when we start tearing down systems that need to change, when we face resistance from people who benefit from the current order, when it gets hard and dangerous and seems impossible? Will you still be here?" One by one they answered, "Yes, absolutely, without question." This was not just loyalty to a king. This was belief in a vision, in possibility, in the future they could build together if they were brave enough to try. As people filed out, the young soldier who had spoken about Rhea's father approached her again. I know you are probably tired of hearing about him, but there is one more thing I think you should know. I never get tired of hearing about my father, Rhea said gently. He told me once, near the end of my deployment, that the measure of a good leader is not how many battles they win. It is how many soldiers they bring home, how many lives they save, how much better they leave things than they found them. The soldier smiled. You are doing that, bringing people home, saving lives, making things better. He would be proud, not just of what you have accomplished, but of who you have become. Rhea felt tears prick her eyes. She pulled the soldier into a quick hug. Thank you. That means more than you know. When everyone had left, Barrick and Rhea remained in the empty strategy room, surrounded by maps and plans and the weight of what came next. You were magnificent today, Barrick said quietly, thinking past the immediate crisis to long-term solutions. That is the kind of leadership this kingdom needs. I learned from watching you. You are not just trying to survive. You are trying to build something. I want to help with that. You already are. Barrick pulled her close, gentle, reverent. I am terrified of tomorrow, of the trial, of the curse, of losing you to some contingency we did not anticipate, but I am also excited, because for the first time in my life, I have a reason to win that is bigger than just staying alive. I have you. I have us. I have a future worth fighting for. Then let us fight for it, together. Together, Barrick agreed, starting with the bond, starting with making us permanent in every way that matters. That night on the fortress walls, they completed the bond ritual. The words were ancient, the magic older still, but the emotion was entirely their own. Barrick spoke first, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I, Barrick, Alpha King of the Midnight Throne, offer you my strength when you are weak, my stability when you are shaken, my loyalty when others betray, my love when the world is cold. I bind my soul to yours, my light to your darkness, my future to your present. I choose you, Rhea, not because fate demands it, not because politics require it, but because you are the home I have been searching for, the partner I thought I would never find, the love I do not deserve but will spend every day trying to earn. I choose you, freely, completely, forever. The words hit Rhea with a physical force. This was not ritual formula. This was truth, spoken from the heart by a man who had spent his entire life being controlled and was now choosing freely, choosing her. She spoke her answering vows. I, Rhea, seer of the lost bloodline, accept your strength and offer my own. Accept your stability and offer my grounding. Accept your loyalty and offer my trust. Accept your love and offer my heart. I bind my soul to yours, my light to your darkness, my present to your future. I choose you, Barrick, not because duty demands it, not because biology dictates it, but because you see me as an equal when everyone else saw me as less, because you trust me when trust is the hardest thing to give, because you are worth choosing every day for the rest of my life. I choose you, freely, completely, forever. The silver and gold light exploded around them. Not just visual, it was feeling, sensation, the bond snapping into place with almost audible click. Rhea gasped as Barrick's emotions flooded through their connection. His love, his fear, his absolute determination to protect her and be worthy of her choice. And he felt hers, her confidence, her tactical mind already planning 3 steps ahead, her deep, abiding belief that they could actually win, that they could change everything, that together they were stronger than any force arrayed against them. The curse rushed toward the bond, dark shadow trying to corrupt the connection. But Rhea's light met it head-on, not destroying it. That was impossible. But containing it, balancing it, creating equilibrium where before there had been only chaos. Barrick cried out, not pain, relief. The noise in his head, the constant screaming of accumulated trauma, suddenly went quiet, became manageable, became something he could live with instead of something that was slowly killing him. Rhea, he whispered, I can think, clearly. For the first time in I do not even know how long I can actually think. That is what we do, she said. Her voice was steady despite the weight she could feel settling into her own mind. Part of his burden, part of his curse. We balance each other. You carry my fears, I carry your darkness. Neither of us has to bear impossible weight alone anymore. But as the bond settled, Rhea felt it. The cold spot Morirana had left. Not just a mark, not just surveillance. The High Priestess had planted something deeper, a spell that activated with the bond, connecting Morirana to the link between them, letting her feel what they felt, see what they saw, use the bond as a weapon. The escape had not been victory, it had been trap, and Rhea had walked right into it, had brought the trap home, had completed the bond with surveillance spell active. Morirana knew everything now, the coalition, the evidence, the entire plan, and she was using their bond as her observation post. "Rhea?" Barrick's voice was concerned. "What is wrong? I can feel your fear through the bond. What happened?" She almost told him, almost confessed everything. But the cold spot pulsed, listening, recording. Morirana was there, in her head, in their bond. If Rhea revealed the surveillance, Morirana would know they knew, would adjust her plans, make contingencies. Rhea's only advantage was that Morirana thought the spell remained secret. "After the trial," Rhea managed. The lie tasted like ash, but necessary lie, strategic lie. "I will explain everything after, just trust me right now, please." Barrick studied her face. She could feel his confusion through the bond, his growing suspicion that something was very wrong. But he also felt her determination, her absolute conviction that whatever she was hiding for good reason. "After the trial," he agreed slowly, "but no more secrets after that. We face everything together." "Together," Rhea said, and prayed that Morirana's surveillance would not cost them everything. "I promise, no more secrets after we win." They stood together on the fortress walls, bound, united, complete. The curse was balanced, the bond was permanent. Tomorrow they would face their greatest challenge. And one of them carried a spy in their own mind who could destroy everything they had built. But some bonds were worth fighting for, even when betrayal lurked in the shadows. Some love survived, even when trust was compromised. And some partnerships were strong enough to overcome even the darkest treason. Rhea had to believe that. Had to believe that love and partnership would be enough to defeat even Morirana's schemes. Because the alternative, that everything they had built could be undone by a single moment of magical treachery, was too terrible to contemplate. So she held Barrick close. Let their bond sing with mutual devotion. Let him feel her love even as she hid her fear, and prepared to face tomorrow knowing that victory would be much harder than anyone realized. Because Morirana was not just waiting. She was watching. Through Rhea's own eyes, listening through Rhea's own ears, using their bond as her weapon. And Rhea would have to find a way to defeat her despite giving her that advantage, would have to win while compromised, would have to save everything without revealing that anything was wrong. Impossible odds. But then again, Rhea had built her entire life on overcoming impossible odds. Tomorrow she would do it one more time, or die trying, because that was what mates did. They protected each other even when protection required sacrifice. They fought for each other even when the fight seemed unwinnable. They chose each other every day, even when choice cost everything. Rhea had chosen Barrick, and she would find a way to keep him safe, even from the enemy she had unknowingly brought home, even from the trap she had walked into with eyes wide open. She would find a way. She had to, because the alternative was unthinkable. And Rhea refused to think about alternatives when victory, however impossible, was still possible. The morning of the trial arrived with oppressive weight. Rhea woke early, the cold spot in her mind pulsing with Morirana's presence. The High Priestess was watching, had been watching all night, knew everything. Rhea dressed in formal attire, not servant clothes. The gown Barrick had commissioned for her, midnight blue silk that shimmered like starlight. She was not hiding anymore, was not pretending to be invisible. Today, she would stand beside the Alpha King as his acknowledged mate. Let the entire kingdom see what they had built together, even if that partnership carried a spy's mark that could destroy them. Barrick found her on the fortress walls, watching the sun rise over the trial grounds. The amphitheater was already filling, thousands of citizens gathering to witness. This was ancient tradition, the kingdom coming together to judge their king. He did not speak immediately, just stood beside her, his hand finding hers. The bond hummed between them, warm, steady, except for the cold spot. The surveillance spell Rhea still had not told him about. "I can feel your fear," Barrick said quietly. "Through the bond. You are terrified, but you will not tell me why." "Because telling you changes nothing," Rhea replied. "The trial happens regardless. We execute the plan regardless. My fear is my own to manage." "That is not how partnership works." "I know. And after today, I will explain everything. But right now, I need you to trust me. Trust that I am doing what needs to be done. Can you do that?" Beric studied her face. She could feel his frustration through the bond, his desperate need to protect her from whatever was causing her fear. But he also felt her determination, her absolute conviction that this was necessary. "After the trial," he said, "we have no more secrets after this." "Agreed, no more secrets." He pulled her close, kissed her with desperate intensity, like he was afraid this might be the last time. "Whatever happens down there, remember that I love you. Remember that you are mine, and I am yours, and nothing the council says can change that." "I love you too," Rhea whispered against his mouth, "and we are going to win. I promise." She could feel the cold spot pulse. Morirana listening, recording, using even this intimate moment for her surveillance. Rhea wanted to scream, wanted to tear the spell out of her own mind, but that would alert Morirana, would give away the only advantage Rhea had, that she knew about the surveillance. So she kissed Beric again, let him feel her love through the bond even as she hid her fear, and prepared to walk into the trial knowing she was compromised, knowing the enemy could see through her eyes, knowing victory would require fighting on two fronts simultaneously. Impossible odds, but then Rhea specialized in impossible. The trial grounds were massive, open amphitheater carved from mountainside. Thousands of citizens packed the stone seats. The noise was overwhelming, thunder made of human voices, all watching, all judging, all waiting to see if their king would prove himself worthy or fall to the curse. Rhea took her seat in the front row, section reserved for the king's court. She was not alone. Seraphine sat beside her, Bram on her other side, Lord Varen and Lord Corwin nearby with their key supporters. The coalition was present, visible, ready. Across the arena, Rhea could see the council. 13 members in formal robes. Castoff looked satisfied, confident. Morirana sat perfectly still, violet robes stark against stone. Her eyes found Rhea across the distance. The high priestess smiled, small, cold, knowing. "She knows that I know," Rhea realized with jolt. The surveillance spell was not one way. Morirana could feel when Rhea accessed the knowledge of being watched, was amused by it, had planned for it. This was not just spy operation. This was psychological warfare. Morirana wanted Rhea to know she was compromised, wanted her to fight with that knowledge weighing her down, wanted her afraid and hesitant and second-guessing every decision. But Morirana had miscalculated one thing. Rhea had spent 6 years fighting in war zones, had learned to operate under impossible conditions. Fear was just another tactical variable, one she knew how to manage. So Rhea smiled back, slow, confident. Let Morirana see that surveillance or not, she was not backing down, was not breaking, was ready for whatever came next. The horn sounded, deep and resonant. The trial began. Beric entered the arena wearing full ceremonial armor, crown resting on his head, every inch the Alpha King. But Rhea could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his right hand trembled slightly. The curse was already building. The full moon would not rise for hours, but he could feel it coming. Combat demonstration came first. Ancient ritual. The king proving physical capability through single combat. 3 fighters stepped forward, all veterans, all skilled. This was meant to test whether age or curse had eroded warrior ability. The first challenger was young, maybe 30, fast and cocky. He entered the arena with swagger that said he expected easy victory. After all, Beric was older, cursed. How hard could it be? He learned otherwise in the first exchange. The challenger came in fast, blade flashing in complex pattern designed to overwhelm. Beric did not try to match speed. He read the pattern instead, saw the rhythm, waited for the overextension that came when the challenger got too confident. There. The blade swung wide. Beric stepped inside the arc. His own blade stopped a hair's breadth from the challenger's throat. "Yield," he said quietly. The young fighter's eyes went wide, stared at the blade, at how easily Beric had gotten past his defenses. "I yield," he managed. The crowd roared approval. First blood to the king, literally and figuratively. The second challenger was older, seasoned, a bear of a man with scars that spoke of decades of combat. He entered slowly, respectfully, This was not cocky youth. This was veteran warrior testing another veteran. They circled each other, assessing. The challenger was strong, probably outweighed Beric by 50 pounds. His strategy was obvious. Get close. Use superior strength to overpower. End it fast before technique could compensate. Beric let him think it would work. Let the man charge in with that massive overhead strike. Then he moved. Not away, toward. Inside the swing where strength could not generate power. His shoulder drove into the challenger's solar plexus. Air rushed out. Beric used the momentum, threw the big man over his hip. The challenger hit the ground hard. Beric's knee landed on his chest, blade at his throat. Yield? The big man laughed. Actually laughed. I yield, Your Majesty. Well played. They helped each other up. Mutual respect between warriors who understood combat. The crowd loved it. This was what they came to see. Not just victory, but honor, skill. The king proving he was still warrior even under curse's weight. The third challenger was different. Female, early 50s, lean and dangerous. She moved like water. Defensive fighter. The kind who waited for opponent to make mistakes, then capitalized ruthlessly. This would be harder. Beric could not rush her, could not overpower her. This required patience, strategy. Exactly the kind of prolonged engagement the curse made difficult. They engaged carefully. Testing. She was good. Maybe better than good. Her defense was nearly perfect. Every attack Beric made, she countered. Every opening he created, she closed before he could exploit. The fight dragged on. 3 minutes. 5. 7. The crowd was riveted. This was true combat between masters. But Rhea could see what they could not. Beric's hand was starting to tremble, the curse beginning to rise. He needed to end this soon. The challenger saw it too, saw the tremor, pressed harder, trying to force mistake through fatigue and curse combined. Bad tactical decision. She focused on the tremor, did not notice the footwork, did not see Beric deliberately positioning himself, setting up the trap. He stumbled. Obvious. Too obvious. She saw the opening, committed to the lunge that would end it. Beric's stumble became a spin. His blade came around an arc that caught her weapon, disarmed her with technique that was pure art. Her sword clattered across stone. His blade stopped at her heart. Yield, he said, breathing hard. The tremor worse now, but controlled, managed. He had won all 3 combats despite the curse, despite the full moon rising, despite everything working against him. The challenger smiled. I yield, with honor. She retrieved her weapon and bowed deeply. You fight well, sire. The curse has not taken that from you. The crowd exploded into cheers. 3 victories, against skilled opponents, with honor and technique and absolute control. If there had been any question about Beric's physical capability, it was answered, decisively. Strategic assessment came next. Complex battlefield scenarios presented by the council, questions about troop deployment, resource allocation, alliance management. This was where Castoff tried to trip him up with deliberately impossible scenarios. No-win situations designed to make any answer look inadequate. The first scenario was straightforward. Border incursion, 300 enemy combatants, limited defensive forces. What would the king do? Beric answered without hesitation. Establish defensive perimeter using terrain advantages. Hold at choke points while calling reinforcements. Minimize casualties through superior positioning rather than direct engagement. Estimated timeline for resolution, 48 hours with acceptable losses. The council members nodded. Basic competence demonstrated. The second scenario was harder. Civil unrest in 3 territories simultaneously. Limited forces, conflicting priorities. How to maintain order without excessive force. Deploy mediators first, force second, Beric replied. Civil unrest stems from grievances. Address grievances and unrest diminishes. Use force only when mediation fails. Prioritize territories by severity. Accept that some disorder is preferable to martial law that creates resentment. More nods. Good leadership philosophy. But Castoff was smiling. The real trap was coming. The third scenario was the killer. Supply convoy ambushed. 20 soldiers captured by northern packs. Rescue mission would require crossing border, violating treaty, starting war. What would the king do? Silence in the amphitheater. Everyone knew this was impossible question. Rescue the soldiers and start war. Abandon them and lose military loyalty. No good answer. Barrick looked directly at Kastov. I would ask why my High General authorized that convoy to travel without adequate security. I would investigate how Northern Pax knew exact route and timing. I would discover that the ambush was enabled by leaked intelligence. And then I would present that High General with the evidence of his treason. Kastov's face went purple. That scenario is hypothetical. Is it? Because it sounds remarkably similar to the convoy that was ambushed 3 months ago, the one where we lost 18 soldiers, the one where intelligence was compromised, the one you commanded. Barrick's voice was ice. So let me answer your hypothetical with reality. I would not send soldiers into ambushes enabled by corrupt leadership. I would not accept scenarios designed to make me choose between bad options when the real problem is traitors in my own command structure. The crowd erupted. People shouting, some angry, some supportive, all engaged. This was not dry tactical assessment. This was accusation, public, undeniable. Kastov tried to recover. You cannot make baseless accusations without evidence. I have evidence, documentary evidence, communications, financial records, testimony from survivors. Barrick gestured to where Rhea sat. Evidence gathered by my strategic advisor at considerable personal risk. Evidence that will be presented in detail during my public address. Unless you would like to explain it now, in front of everyone, I am happy to accommodate. Kastov shut his mouth, trapped. Any denial now would just draw more attention to what he wanted suppressed. The council moved quickly to next scenario, but the damage was done. Barrick had turned their tactical assessment into exposure of their manipulation, had shown that the real strategic failure was council corruption, not his capability. Rhea felt fierce pride through the bond. This was the king she loved, not just warrior, not just tactician, leader who refused to play rigged games, who called out corruption even when calling it out was dangerous. Lord Varen stood up from his seat, breaking protocol, but he was border lord. He had earned the right to speak. I have a question, Varen called out, his voice carrying across the amphitheater. Your Majesty, you mentioned supply convoys being compromised. I lost 30 soldiers in ambushes over the past year, all supply runs, all supposedly secure routes. Can you explain how this happened? This was part of the plan. Coalition support, public testimony that corroborated the evidence. Barrick nodded to Varen. The Northern Pax were receiving intelligence about convoy routes, schedules, security details. Someone in our command structure was feeding them information. The evidence I will present shows systematic intelligence leak over 18 months. Your soldiers died because they were betrayed by people they trusted to protect them. And who was responsible? Varen's voice was hard, cold, dangerous. High General Kastov, High Priestess Morirana, possibly others on the council. The evidence is comprehensive. The pattern is undeniable. Another lord stood. Lord Corwin, younger, angrier. My brother died in one of those ambushes. He was a good soldier. He trusted his commanders. He believed the intelligence was secure. Are you telling me he died because of treason? Because someone sold him out for political gain? Yes, Barrick said simply. I am sorry. Your brother deserved better. They all did. Corwin's hands were shaking, with rage, with grief, with need for justice. Then I call for council accountability. I call for full investigation. I call for justice for every soldier who died because of this conspiracy. Other voices joined in. Border lords who had lost soldiers, military commanders who had seen too many suspicious patterns, common soldiers in the crowd who knew something had been wrong. The amphitheater was becoming mob, angry, demanding, dangerous. Kastov looked around wildly. This was spinning out of control. This was not supposed to happen. The trial was supposed to be controlled, managed, safe. But Barrick had turned it into revolution. Morirana finally stood, her voice cut through the chaos like blade, cold, commanding, absolute. Silence. The crowd obeyed, not because they wanted to, because Morirana's power was old, deep, terrifying. When she spoke with that voice, people listened or died. These accusations are inflammatory, Morirana said, designed to distract from the real issue, which is the king's fitness, his curse, his instability. He spins conspiracy theories to avoid addressing his own failures. This is classic deflection, manipulation, the behavior of someone losing grip on reality. She was good. Rhea had to admit it. The High Priestess was very good at turning narrative, at making truth sound like madness, at making reasonable people doubt what they had just heard. But Morirana had made one mistake. She had not accounted for the mate bond, for what Rhea and Barrick could do together, for the power of partnership against manipulation. Then came the public address, the part where the king spoke directly to the people, explaining his leadership, his vision, his fitness to continue ruling. Ancient law gave him uninterrupted time. No one could stop him once he began. This was the moment. The reason for everything they had done, the evidence, the exposure, the gambit that would either save the kingdom or cost them everything. Barrick stepped to the center of the arena. The sun was setting, the full moon beginning to rise. Rhea could see the curse taking hold, see the way his posture changed, the amber glow brightening in his eyes. He was fighting it, using everything they had practiced. "People of Ethelgard," Barrick began. His voice carried across the amphitheater, strong, clear, controlled. "You are here to judge my fitness to rule, to decide if I can lead this kingdom through challenging times. I stand before you today not to ask for your trust, but to give you truth. Truth that some in power would prefer remained hidden." He gestured and Seraphine activated magical projection. Documents appeared in the air, treaties, communications, financial records, all the evidence Rhea had gathered, all the proof of conspiracy laid bare. High General Castoff and High Priestess Morirana have been working with Northern Pack leadership to destabilize this kingdom. They have sabotaged supply lines, leaked intelligence that got soldiers killed, all to make me appear unfit, all to position themselves for power grab when I supposedly fell. The crowd exploded into shocked noise. Castoff stood up, shouting denials, council members yelling. But the evidence was there, floating in the air for everyone to see, undeniable, damning. Morirana remained seated, perfectly calm, her eyes on Rhea. Through the cold spot, Rhea felt the High Priestess's satisfaction. This was not surprise, this was expected. Morirana had planned for exposure, had contingencies. The moon cleared the horizon, full and bright. The curse hit Barrick like physical blow. Rhea saw him stagger, saw the darkness beginning to rise around him, the feral shadow responding to lunar pull. His hand went to his head, the tremor becoming full body shake. This was Morirana's play. Let him present evidence, then watch him fall to curse in front of everyone. Make the evidence seem like ravings of someone losing grip on sanity. Castoff was shouting now. "You see? The king is unfit. The curse controls him. We need new leadership before he destroys us all." Barrick fell to his knees. The crowd gasped. Rhea could feel his pain through the bond, the accumulated trauma of centuries crashing down on him. Every soldier who died, every mistake, every loss, all of it hitting at once while the moon pulled at the supernatural curse that magnified everything. Through the bond, she felt his thoughts, raw, unfiltered, desperate. "I am failing them, failing her, failing everyone. The darkness is too strong. I cannot hold it back. I am becoming exactly what they feared. Monster, weapon, danger." "No," Rhea sent back through the bond. "You are not alone. You are not a monster. You are a king who has carried impossible burden for too long. And I am here. Let me help. Let me share this. Trust me. But if you stand, they will know. They will target you. They will use you against me. You will never be safe again. I have never been safe. Neither have you. Safety is illusion. Partnership is real. Love is real. And I choose you. Publicly. Completely. Absolutely." She could sit here, could let it play out, could watch him struggle alone because standing up would reveal their bond publicly, would make her a target, would paint symbol on her back for every enemy to aim at. Or she could do what mates do, stand beside him, share the burden, show the kingdom that partnership was possible even when tradition said otherwise. Rhea stood. The movement felt like stepping off cliff, like choosing to fall and trusting someone would catch her. Every eye in the amphitheater turned to her. Shock, confusion, outrage, an Omega walking onto trial grounds without permission, unheard of, scandalous, breaking every protocol. She did not care. Each step across the arena felt significant, historic. She was not just walking to help Barrick, she was walking away from centuries of tradition that said Omegas were weak, that said they needed protection, that said they could not lead or fight or choose their own destiny. With each step, she rejected those lies. Each step was declaration. I am strong, I am capable. I choose this, I choose him, and none of you can stop me. Beric looked up as she approached. His eyes were blazing amber. Full curse manifestation, the feral wolf looking out through human face. For a moment she saw fear. What if he hurt her? What if the curse turned him into something that could not recognize her? What if she was walking into danger she could not handle? Then she reached him, placed her hands on his shoulders, and the silver light beneath her skin blazed bright enough to cast shadows, responding to his need, answering the call for help that echoed through their bond. The feral wolf recognized her immediately. Of course it did. She was mate. She was safety. She was home. The curse was not enemy, it was part of him. And she had chosen all of him, light and shadow, strength and weakness, king and wolf and cursed soul who needed help. "You do not have to fight alone anymore," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. The amphitheater had gone silent, everyone straining to hear, to understand what was happening. "Let me share this. Let me help. Let me be what I was always meant to be. Your partner, your equal, your mate." "The bond," Beric managed. His voice was strained, desperate, fighting for control even as she grounded him. "If we reveal it here, in front of everyone, they will know. They will use it against us. They will call it manipulation, unnatural, forbidden." "Let them try," Rhea replied. She pulled him to his feet, felt the tremor in his hands, the way he was using her touch as anchor, as reason to hold on when everything else was telling him to let go. "I am tired of hiding, tired of pretending, tired of letting rank and tradition dictate what is possible. I choose you, Beric, publicly, permanently, irrevocably. Let everyone see what we are. Let them know exactly what they are up against if they try to come between us." The silver and gold light of their bond became visible. Physical manifestation of the soul connection. It swirled around them like living aurora. Beautiful, terrifying, undeniable. The seer bond that had not been seen in the kingdom for generations. Proof that the bloodline lived, that partnership was possible, that love could balance even the darkest curse. The crowd made a sound, not quite gasp, not quite sigh, something between awe and fear. This was magic, real magic, not political maneuvering, not tricks or illusions. This was fundamental truth of their world made visible. Omega and Alpha, seer and king, two souls choosing each other despite everything that should have kept them apart. Rhea felt the bond settle into place, felt Beric's curse flow through the connection. Dark, heavy, crushing, centuries of accumulated trauma. Every king who had come before, every soldier who had died under their command, every mistake that could not be taken back, all of it crashing into her mind. The weight should have destroyed her, should have broken her under impossible pressure. But she had trained for this. 6 years of combat zones, 6 years of watching people die and carrying that weight, 6 years of learning that you could survive impossible things if you just kept moving forward. She took the curse, accepted it, let it flow into her until the burden was shared, balanced, neither of them carrying the full weight, both of them strong enough together to bear what would have crushed them alone. Beric gasped. The amber glow in his eyes dimmed. The tremor in his hands stopped. For the first time in years, the noise in his head went quiet. The curse was still there, but managed, contained, survivable. "Rhea," he whispered, "I can think. I can breathe. I can—" He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. "Thank you. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for being brave enough to stand here when standing here was dangerous." "That is what mates do," Rhea replied. Her voice was steady, despite the dark weight now living in her own mind. Despite the curse she could feel pressing against her thoughts. "We save each other. We choose each other. We stand together when standing together is the hardest thing to do." She turned to face the crowd, to face Morirana, to face every person who had ever told her she was weak, that she was less than, that she could not be what she wanted to be. "Yes, I am seer," Rhea called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, I carry the bloodline everyone thought was extinct. Yes, I bonded with your king. And yes, I did it knowing it would make me target. Knowing it would change everything. Because some things are worth fighting for. Some people are worth dying for. And the future we can build together is worth any risk." Morirana stood slowly, Her voice carried across the suddenly silent amphitheater. "The seer bloodline lives. How convenient. How perfectly timed. Almost as if this were staged. Manufactured evidence supported by magical manipulation. Do you really expect us to believe any of this?" "I expect you to explain this," Rhea replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. She reached up and touched her own temple, right where the cold spot pulsed. "The surveillance spell you planted during my infiltration, the one that has let you watch through my eyes, listen through my ears, monitor every moment since I escaped. How convenient for you. How perfectly positioned, almost as if you let me go specifically to plant this spell and gather intelligence." She could feel Morirana's shock through the cold spot. The High Priestess had not expected exposure, had not anticipated Rhea would reveal the compromise. "But you made one mistake," Rhea continued. "You assumed I would be paralyzed by knowing I was compromised, that I would second-guess every decision, that fear would make me useless. You did not account for the fact that I spent 6 years operating in hostile territory, that surveillance is just another tactical variable, that I learned long ago how to win even when enemy has every advantage." She turned to face the crowd. "Yes, she has been watching me. Yes, she knows our plans. Yes, she has prepared contingencies. And we are going to win anyway, because partnership is stronger than manipulation, because truth is more powerful than fear, because love chosen freely cannot be broken by schemes made in darkness." The cold spot pulsed violently, Morirana trying to activate the spell, trying to use it as weapon now that secrecy was gone. Rhea felt pain lance through her skull, the High Priestess attempting to seize control, to force Rhea's actions through magical compulsion. But Morirana had not accounted for the bond, for Barrick's strength flowing through their connection, for the balance they had created. Rhea grabbed the cold spot mentally, the surveillance spell, and with Barrick's power supporting her, she ripped it out. The pain was excruciating, like tearing out part of her own mind. Rhea screamed, but she did not stop, did not let go, just pulled until the spell came free, shredding as it released. The cold spot vanished, taking Morirana's window into their partnership with it. Rhea collapsed. Barrick caught her, held her steady even as the curse still pulled at him, even as the moon's full light should have been driving him into feral madness. But the bond held, Rhea's light balancing his darkness, his strength supporting her pain. They held each other up, literally, figuratively, completely. "The bond shares everything," Barrick said to the watching crowd. His voice was rough but steady. "Not just power, not just magic. Everything. Her burdens become mine. My curse becomes hers. We carry each other, support each other, save each other every day in ways large and small. That is what partnership means. That is what the seer bond was always supposed to be. Not ownership, not slavery, mutual choice, equal exchange, love freely given and accepted." The crowd was silent, stunned. Then someone started to chant, "Long live the king! Long live the queen!" Others picked it up, more voices joining, until thousands were chanting together, accepting what they had just witnessed, accepting the impossible made real. Morirana stood there, violet robes stark against stone. Her face was mask of cold fury. "This changes nothing. The council must still vote. The trial must be completed according to law." "Then let us vote," Barrick said. His voice was stronger now, amplified by the bond, by partnership. "Let the council decide, but they will decide knowing the truth, knowing that you conspired with foreign powers, knowing that you tried to destroy me to gain power. Make your arguments, see how far they carry against documented evidence and public testimony." The vote happened, required by tradition. But the outcome was never in doubt. The evidence was too strong, the public too aware, too angry at being manipulated. 12 votes to remove the king, 1 abstention. Morirana's coalition had collapsed. Faced with undeniable proof and population demanding justice, they had no choice but to back down. The trial was over. Barrick's fitness confirmed, his rule secured, and Morirana's conspiracy exposed for entire kingdom to see. As crowd dispersed, as Bram coordinated security to arrest conspirators, as Seraphine began documenting everything for historical record, Rhea and Barrick stood together in center of arena. "We did it," Rhea said quietly. Her head was still pounding from tearing out the surveillance spell, but the cold spot was gone. Morirana's window closed permanently. "You did it," Barrick corrected. "You exposed the spy. You ripped out the surveillance despite the pain. You stood beside me when standing beside me was dangerous. You saved me, saved the kingdom, saved everything. I told you. That is what mates do. We save each other." Rhea leaned against him, exhausted and exhilarated. "And I told you we would win. I keep my promises." "Yes, you do." Barrick kissed her forehead, gentle, reverent. "Come. We have won the battle. Now we need to win the war. Reform, change, building the kingdom we talked about. Are you ready?" "Always ready." 6 months later, the formal coronation happened. Not in stuffy council chambers, but in the royal gardens, where their story had truly begun. Where drunk Omega had insulted Alpha King and started revolution without knowing it. The gardens were full. Thousands gathered, not just nobility. Common soldiers, merchants, farmers, people from every territory, every rank, every station, all invited, all welcome. This was not coronation for elite. This was celebration for kingdom. Rhea stood at top of marble stairs, wearing gown that made her look like creature of moonlight. Silver silk and white fur, the seer mark blazing silver on her forehead. Visible, undeniable. She was not hiding anymore. The crowd went quiet as she descended. She walked down the aisle toward Obsidian Fountain where Barrick waited. He wore traditional dark robes, but he had discarded the heavy crown of his ancestors for simple silver band that matched her own. Partnership reflected even in symbols. The look in his eyes as she approached made her heart stop. Pride, desire, love so deep it felt like it could span lifetimes. They had earned this, had fought for this, had built this together from nothing but stubborn refusal to accept what everyone said was impossible. The ceremony was short, simple, but powerful. Barrick crowned first, traditional, then unprecedented. He turned and crowned Rhea, equal, partner, co-regent. "Queen Commander," the official said. New title, new role, military and political authority combined. When Barrick spoke, his voice carried to every corner. 6 months ago, I was king dying under weight of my crown, losing myself to curse I could not control. Today, I am king who shares that weight with strongest person I know. We are not returning to old ways. We are forging new ones. Strength is not ruling alone. It is knowing when to stand together. Rhea spoke next. "I was taught Omegas were weak, that we needed protection. I learned the truth. We are survivors. We are fighters. We are leaders. This crown is not gift. It is responsibility, one I will carry with honor. To every Omega who has been told you are less than, you are not. You are exactly what this kingdom needs." The crowd erupted, cheering, chanting, accepting. It was not universal. Some traditional alphas were unhappy, but they were outnumbered by people who saw possibility, who saw hope, who saw future that could be different from past. After ceremony in private garden, Barrick pulled Rhea close. "Any regrets?" "About which part? The treason charges, the war, the very public soul bond?" "All of it." "Not one, you?" "Just one. I regret not meeting you sooner." Barrick smiled. "But we have now, and that is enough." "More than enough. That is everything." They kissed, earned, intimate, perfect. Around them kingdom breathed, reformed, renewed, changed. The work was not done. There were still enemies, still challenges, still impossible tasks ahead. But they would face those together, as partners, as equals, as mates who had chosen each other freely. Reforms came fast, council restructured, term limits, transparency, border lords given real autonomy, military promotions based on merit, Omega rights legislation, veteran support programs, Barrick teaching grounding techniques to traumatize soldiers, using his curse experience to help others. But fast did not mean easy. Every change was fought. Every reform resisted by people who benefited from the old systems. 3 months after the trial, Rhea sat in council chambers listening to Lord Garrett complain about Omega advancement in military. "It undermines hierarchy, destroys morale. Soldiers need clear chain of command." "Soldiers need competent leadership," Rhea replied calmly. "Which rank does not guarantee. I have seen beta soldiers follow Omega commanders into combat and come home alive. I have seen alpha generals get their people killed through pride and incompetence. Rank is about biology. Leadership is about capability. We promote capability now. If that undermines morale, the problem is not the promotion. It is your morale. Garrett's face went red. You dare speak to me like that? I am Council Lord. And I am Queen Commander, which outranks you. So yes, I dare. Rhea stood. Vote is called. All in favor of military merit promotion bill? 8 hands went up, 5 against. The bill passed. Garrett stormed out. But the bill passed. That was what mattered. Slow progress, brick by brick, building new kingdom on ruins of old systems. Barrick found her afterward in their private study. She was staring at paperwork, looking exhausted. Garrett giving you trouble? He asked, settling beside her. Garrett giving everyone trouble. He does not like change, does not like Omegas in power, does not like that the world moved on without his permission. Rhea rubbed her eyes. Some days I wonder if we are making actual progress or just fighting same battles over and over. You are making progress, I can see it. The military has promoted 7 Omegas to command positions in 3 months. 7. That is not small thing. That is revolution disguised as regulation. Barrick pulled her close. You are changing the world. It is just exhausting to watch it change slowly. I want it to change faster. I know, but fast change breaks things. Slow change builds foundations. He kissed her temple. You are building foundations for every Omega who comes after you, every person who was told they were less than. You are showing them different is possible. That takes time. Rhea leaned into him. Let his strength support her exhaustion. This was partnership. Not just the dramatic moments, not just the trials and conspiracies, but the everyday grind of actually fixing things, of showing up every day and choosing to push forward even when progress felt impossible. How is the veteran program going? She asked. Good. 60 soldiers enrolled, learning grounding techniques, talking about trauma, supporting each other. Barrick's voice carried quiet pride. I taught them what you taught me, how to manage the darkness, how to live with weight that never fully goes away. 3 of them have already returned to active duty. 2 more are training to be counselors. It works, Rhea. Healing is possible. Because you showed them it was possible. Because you let them see your curse, your struggle, your survival. That gave them permission to acknowledge their own. Rhea turned to look at him. You are a good king, Barrick. The kingdom is lucky to have you. The kingdom is lucky to have us, he corrected. I could not do this alone. I tried for 10 years, failed miserably. But together, we can actually accomplish things. Together, we can build something that lasts. 6 months after the trial, Rhea established the Seer Academy. Small building, 10 students, all Omegas with silver sight, all young people who had been told their abilities were curse, were danger, were reason to hide. She taught them different truth. That silver sight was gift, tool, weapon if needed. That seers had been hunted because they were powerful, not because they were weak. That the bloodline had survived because some Omegas refused to die quietly. Her first student was a girl named Kira, 14, scared, convinced her abilities made her monster. I can see through wards, Kira whispered during first private session. I can feel people's emotions. Sometimes I know things before they happen. My pack said I was unnatural, dangerous. They wanted to bind my abilities, make me normal. You are not unnatural, Rhea said firmly. You are seer, and seers are not dangerous. We are necessary. We balance power. We see truth. We ground people who need grounding. That is not curse. That is purpose. But what if I hurt someone? Then you learn control, same as any power. Alphas learn to control their strength. Betas learn to control their instincts. Seers learn to control their sight. But control is not suppression. Control is channeling, using your abilities intentionally instead of letting them use you. Rhea took Kira's hands. I will teach you. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are exactly what you are supposed to be. Kira cried, relief, release, permission to be herself. Rhea taught 10 students that first year, taught them control, confidence, pride in abilities that had been called curse. By year end, all 10 were working, 2 in military, 3 in medicine, 5 in diplomatic service, using their abilities to serve kingdom that had once feared them. 1 year after the trial, Beric and Rhea walked through palace gardens together. Late evening, stars emerging in darkening sky. This was their time, stolen moments between responsibilities, between changes they were making, between battles they were fighting. They walked in comfortable silence, hands linked, bond humming quietly between them. The curse was there, always there, dark weight that never fully disappeared, but manageable, shared, survivable. "Do you ever regret it?" Beric asked quietly. "The bond, the burden, the constant weight of my curse in your mind." "Never," Rhea replied immediately. "Not once, not even on hardest days, because the alternative is you carrying it alone, and I would choose this burden every time if it means you can breathe, if it means you can think clearly, if it means we can build this kingdom together, even knowing what it costs you, the headaches, the nightmares, the dark days when the curse presses harder. Even knowing that. Because you carry my fears, my doubts, my dark days when I wonder if we are making any difference at all. Partnership goes both ways. You save me as often as I save you. That is what makes this work." Rhea stopped walking, turned to face him. "Do you regret it? Choosing Omega when you could have chosen Beta, someone stronger, someone who would not struggle with curse weight, not even slightly, because Betas would have tried to fight it, to dominate it, to prove they were stronger than the curse. That would have failed. You understand it instead. You know darkness is not enemy to be defeated. It is weight to be carried. That makes all the difference." Beric cupped her face. "You are exactly who I needed, who I still need, who I will always need the rest of my life, however long that is. Then you are stuck with me, for better or worse, in strength and weakness, in light and darkness, forever. Promise? I never break my promises." They kissed. Soft, familiar. The kiss of two people who had been through war together and come out stronger, who had built something impossible simply by refusing to accept that impossible meant unattainable. 2 years after the trial, the kingdom celebrated anniversary of reforms, not official holiday, just gathering, border lords and common soldiers, merchants and farmers, Omegas who had been promoted, veterans who had been healed, all the people whose lives had changed because two people decided partnership was possible. Rhea stood on balcony watching crowd gather in plaza below. So many people, so many lives touched, changed, made better. It was not perfect. There were still problems, still enemies, still days when everything felt overwhelming. But it was better, measurably better, and that was enough. Beric joined her on the balcony, wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his chin on her shoulder. They stood together watching the celebration, watching the proof that change was possible, that revolution could happen one small victory at a time. "Thank you," Beric said quietly, "for that night in the garden, for calling me out, for refusing to accept what everyone said was impossible, for choosing me when choosing me was dangerous, for standing beside me when standing beside me cost everything. Thank you for saving me, for saving the kingdom, for being brave enough to believe we could build something better." "Thank you for letting me," Rhea replied, "for seeing past rank to capability, for trusting Omega when trusting Omegas was forbidden, for being king who chose partnership over power, for being mate who chose love over tradition, for being worth saving." They stayed there on the balcony as celebration continued below. Two people who had changed the world simply by refusing to accept that the world could not be changed. Two souls who had found each other against impossible odds and decided that love and partnership were worth any cost. The kingdom breathed around them, reformed, renewed, changed. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. And better was enough. Because some bonds could not be broken, some love survived even the darkest curses, some partnerships changed the world simply by existing, by proving that impossible was just another word for no one has done it yet. Rhea and Beric had done it, had built something new from ashes of old systems, had created partnership that would outlast them both, had shown entire kingdom that love and respect and mutual choice were more powerful than any tradition or curse or conspiracy. They had won, not just trial, not just kingdom. They had won the future, and they had won it together. Exactly as they had always intended, exactly as it should be, forever.